Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We got Jesse, Rudo, and AJ coming to you live on a Monday. Let's just come out and ask it. Have the Vegas Golden Knights just been cheating this whole time? Is that how you guys feel about it?
Look,
it's not, but it's a funny way to phrase it.
So,
They've just been cheating this whole time. Those cheat hole cheaters.
Look, I don't think they've been cheating, but I've seen a lot of people feel that way about it.
So I'm going to tell a small little roundabout story about a conversation AJ and I had this weekend where we were talking about it.
Yeah.
AJ called me and I laughed my ass off because he goes, we got on the phone and he's like, dude, this weather, this rain, it's just like really pissing me off. And I was like, bro, I know. And we kind of went on this like 5-minute little diatribe about how shitty the weather has been recently. And he goes, all right, well, I didn't actually call you to talk about the weather, but I figured if I could find a sympathetic ear anywhere, it's probably here. So we did that. We talked a little bit about work stuff. And then we just started talking about the Mark Stone LTIR thing. And here was something that was brought to my attention. Because honestly, I was way over it. It's kind of a who cares, good for Vegas. That was a really good team.
Yeah.
They were fun to watch. Their final performance, I thought was special. They played great for those 5 games. That was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I told AJ over the weekend that I had it brought to my attention. I hadn't really thought about the fact that this last season, I believe, was 3 consecutive years where the roster that Vegas finished the season with was not regular season cap compliant.
The thing to me is it's not like it was a little bit not compliant. It's way over.
It's not even close.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
it wouldn't have been like the Avs roster last year where it might have eked like $400K over,
Right,
depending on a
They're
lineup
like
decision.
$6 million over.
It's not even close.
And it really did make me stop and pause and just think about I made the mention last week, like, oh, aggressive ownership, aggressive management, good for them. They're positioned to be in a good spot for a while. We mentioned they're fine going around rules and exploiting loopholes, but I don't know. There is something about the fact that it was like even Tampa. It was 1 year. You can write it off as the anomaly of the shortened season.
Yeah, it would not have been possible in an 82-game season.
Right. To go 3 straight seasons where you're getting around the cap like this, that starts to feel gross at a certain point.
Also, like, keep in mind, this isn't a super duper new thing. Chicago did this with Patrick Kane a good while ago. This has been going on for a while.
My thing, though, is we can call out the Tampa example, the Chicago example that kicked off. This is 3 straight years for Vegas and they finally get over
It's
it.
an organization to be trying to do the same thing.
I agree that
it's a little weird. It's a little bit different because they did miss the postseason the one time.
Yep,
where it was like your shenanigans cost.
Right.
But
it is obvious though that this has gone from
a weird thing.
It was a fluke thing that Chicago took advantage of because it presented itself with a legitimate injury with Kane, where he might have been able to come back a couple of weeks early, and they just
pretty similar with Kucherov.
Yeah, exactly, with Kucherov, where again, like with Chicago's, I think that's just advantageous, and you're just like, hey, we're making the most of the situation. With Tampa Bay, it was kind of the same thing. It was a little gross because he waited for it, and they lined the timelines
because he was skating like 200% in practice 2 weeks before the season ended. Yeah,
you're like the Kucherov one is definitely notable in that this was intentional. This was calculated. They lined it up.
But to your point, they did it to get him to game 56. They couldn't have done it to game 86.
Exactly. There would have been a major. I think there would have been a real
sat out an extra 25 games.
Exactly, man. And so I think that's a little bit different. But when you saw Vegas brazenly do this last year, now we've seen them tiptoe around it in the past. But last year, when they acquired
their cap hits approaching $100 million.
Everybody knew what the score was. Everybody was aware of where they were with it. And then it comes back to haunt them, and it was like, this is a little bit of karma.
It was the Eichel deal for me that bothered it, where it was like, everyone was saying, well, if they do it, they got to move money out. And they didn't move anywhere near enough money out. And it's like, that's the admission.
Yeah.
Yep. We're doing this.
Well, and the one thing that they tried to do, they broke the rules and the trade got nullified.
They wouldn't let them trade
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And so then when you see it this year and you're like, look, there's no doubt that Mark Stone has a real back problem.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that that's a legitimate injury.
You could see it. from time to time.
For sure.
You also are like, that guy was maybe a goal shy of winning a Conn Smythe.
You can't just play him when it's convenient for you and not when it's not.
And going into the offseason, they just have already stated, Mark Stone's going to have this problem.
Yep.
We could be in the same situation where Mark Stone dicks around at the start of the season. He's not feeling very good, so he goes in, he gets a procedure done, gets it cleaned up a little bit. He's in rehab, he's whatever. Game 1 of the postseason, he's out there. There he is, good to go, ready to rock, and just ready to continue to try this.
I think part of the concern for me is Vegas is this in the extreme, and I think a lot of people go, all right, they're taking this too far. But you look down the entire league this year, and you're in January, and there are 12 teams that are over the salary cap with their LTIR stuff. That's almost half the league you're talking about now.
And so here's the one part of it where I think it's tough. And AJ, you and I have talked about this with the Mark Stowe thing, even going back to last year. I wrote about this in the roundtable last night. Like, the league checks into all of this stuff.
Yeah.
There is absolutely a process in which teams and players have to go through with the league that say, yes, this is a legitimate injury. This is why he can't return to play. And this is why we're using his money. So, like, that is a thing. And I believe it was actually, I think this morning on the Jeff Merrick show, Elliot Friedman was saying that this time in particular, apparently the league like really dug into the Mark Stone thing. So, like, the hard part is, like, how do you fix this? If the league is checking up on the Tampa Bay Kucherov thing, this Mark Stone now recurring situation.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other player they did it with last year. It was Stone and someone else.
They had so many injuries last year. They, with Riley Smith and Alec Martinez, they had a revolving door of
LTIR guys.
Yeah, and I think Martinez was the weird one because his initial injury wasn't the issue. It was that he got an infection.
Oh, shit.
From like a cut or a treatment of some kind, got like infected, and that was what was causing him problems.
Why they had to keep him out longer.
Yeah, and then when they were trying to bring him back is when the Dadonov thing happened, and you were like,
"Oh, that's right. That's right. But so here's the issue: if the league's checking up and saying, "No, this player is legitimately hurt," Mark Stone has a real chronic back issue.
Yeah, and
what do you do?
That's the problem. We can sit here and be mad about it as much as we want, and it can feel gross and it could feel like blatant circumvention. But how do you fix it?
There's two things I want to get into there. One, I'm with you guys. Like, if you're struggling to see this as an Avs fan, look at it this way. Imagine if the Avs went into next year and the league said, nope, you don't get to use Gabe Landeskog's LTIR money.
Right.
Like, it'd be awful for Colorado.
You know he's out. You know he's done. He can't come back. And to hard close this loophole tomorrow,
it would be
Gabe Landeskog
terrible for the Avs.
Counts the full amount. It's like he's on the ice.
And so that's just not...
It's tough.
It's not a realistic option for the NHL to remove LTIR entirely.
Yeah, some kind of mechanism that in your salary for your salary cap equation to account for injury.
Do you? So this was my suggestion again in the written piece. Do you just make the salary cap count in the playoffs, and then you do like the taxi squad system for your black aces and your healthy scratches?
I would have no issue with this.
Same.
I don't see what the problem is. I understand that the players aren't getting paid those salaries,
right?
But why is it that you have this whole we can get through the season
and then do whatever the hell you want?
Because that seems like the cleanest way to close the loophole.
Exactly.
Yep.
It has to be cap compliant.
Right. Your cap.
And so if they wanted to bring Mark Stone back for game 1, then they would have had to make other moves.
Right. Well, and you could even do, I've heard this suggested before, of like you have to ice a cap compliant roster. Now, obviously you'd have to adjust that because not everyone that skates in a game counts against your salary cap, because you have your extras and your healthy scratches and things like that. So if you came up with maybe a second number that was close to, but it was more for like 23 guys.
Yeah, it's just your 23-man rosters cap.
You have to be under a salary cap for the team you put on the roster. You have a $120 million playoff salary cap, but it has to be cap compliant, the 20 guys that are on the ice.
Yeah.
To me, those are your only options, is making something count in the playoffs.
It's the easiest, as you say, it's the cleanest way to do it without taking this away. And we saw, like with the Avs last year, sometimes teams get so injured
what can you
there
do?
isn't like they need help.
Right.
You need to be able to ice a roster.
And I like
the Avs supposed to play with 13 guys last year. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one thing that I'm confident in saying when this goes too far. And Vegas didn't do this last year, but they did it the 2 previous years. Is when they screw it up and they end up playing games with an unfull roster because they have to because of the cap.
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of punishment for that. Not just because it's stupid, but because from the NHL side, you're weakening the product. You're icing a non-full team on purpose in a game that matters.
I was going to say it was the argument similar to the argument that we had a bunch last year about the COVID thing in Nashville, where it's like they can't believe the NHL is going to let the Avs go out there with 14 guys like for warm-ups.
Yeah,
like to start the game this way.
Right. It was insane that they let them play that.
That
game.
was
Insane.
that was batshit crazy.
Right.
Man.
It was an anomaly. But again, like I really do think that for as shitty as those COVID seasons were and watching the teams play the same team over and over and over and over again, and a bunch of AHL guys that ended up just kind of sitting all day, there has to be a lesson to take from that and a model that you can make for playoffs. Again, once the regular season ends, we shift to what we had for the COVID stuff, where you have your roster, you have your taxi squad, these taxi squad guys. You could even do a separate cap for them or whatever, but these guys don't count against it till they slide over. But there has to be something that you can do, because 3 years in a row for Vegas, finally winning a cup, and them already setting the table a little bit for might be again next year too. We'll see how Mark Stone's doing. Like,
that was what worried me, was that I didn't have an issue with how things went this year. He missed all that time. He had surgery. The timelines worked out,
but
nicely.
already gearing up to do it again.
But winning the cup and 3 days later being like, well, this could just be reality. You're like, dude, come on.
As he's running down the strip holding the cup, wasted.
Right. You're like,
chronic back
why
issues.
He's got a back problem.
Right. Well, and then that was the only thing I will say that felt icky about it this year was it was very Colorado Avalanche of them. They kept it very under wraps.
Yeah.
It was, we don't know. We have no idea. Oh, he's practicing. He's in a normal jersey. He's in for game 1. It's like, well, that was a hell of a 24 hours going from we don't know to full participant. He's green light for game 1. That was the only part I didn't like, where it was like, it felt as if you guys knew
how
this
healthy
was
he actually.
Yeah, I mean, that was when it was the day before game 1 and he steps onto ice and everybody rolled their eyes like, what a surprise.
Yeah, that was the only part I didn't like about the way that it went for them this year.
Yeah, it's tough.
Otherwise, like, I do think it is a problem. I don't think it's like a rampant issue, but I do think that you look at LTIR has gotten so out of control in the NHL, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Half the league's utilizing it halfway through the season. It's not meant for that.
The problem is it's becoming more common. Like,
well, it's becoming strategy.
Yep.
The same way I put this in the round
it's a
table.
good way to put it. Yeah.
I put this in the round table that we published an hour or two ago that you guys should have already read. The NHL had they slammed the door shut on the 12-year, 15-year contracts that teams were signing, so that they could flatten the cap at the end of them with $1 million salaries and shit like that. They closed that loophole.
Yep.
They said this is enough. They stopped allowing contracts to be super front loaded like that. They put a limit on the amount of variance of salary, and they put a limit on contract length, because it was blatantly, the entire point of it was cap circumvention. LTIR is being used on a regular basis for cap circumvention. And I think that's where the conversation has shifted from, this is a tool that is helping teams, to this has now become a legitimate strategy for people. I mean, there were a bunch of Avs fans that wanted the Avs to utilize EJ and Landy's
13 million that they had
and just
at the
have
time,
those guys sit out the entire year. And if they were ready for game 1 of the postseason, great, bring them back. But then they would have had 13 million at the deadline to play with.
I mean, dude, there were people that were pissed last year at the deadline in 2022 that they didn't use Landeskog's LTIR.
Livid.
Which is why I do find it a little
arm, man.
I was going to say, I do find it a little funny when I see certain Avs fans on Twitter or the chat like, can you believe what Vegas did? It's like, Bro, the picket signs are still by your front door for the Avs
Yeah.
to do that.
Right.
I do have the other side of this conversation too. If you're talking about LTIR issues with icing a roster and getting away with that, do you also have to take a look at teams hitting the cap floor with dead contracts?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
That I think is a
the way
different
that
problem,
they
though.
just stop allowing retired players who cannot play continue to count against the
Yeah,
cap.
I was going to say,
I agree.
That's the larger issue.
Force them to retire.
Yep.
They are not playing. They're not able to pass a physical. They are retired.
They're clearly not gonna come back.
They can continue to get paid out.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just move on from this.
Yep.
Move on from these fake contracts that exist. The Tampa Bay has $6 million, almost $7 million in cap space this year, this summer, because they have Brent Seabrook's contract.
It's so
not
dumb.
because something
that's
happened.
so dumb. Yeah.
Not because of any other
Because they went out and got a
this-
contract on purpose
Exactly,
to create
they traded
this
for,
space.
and you look at Arizona. There are guys on Arizona's injured list. I didn't even know that we're down there. They have Voracek and Brian Little.
Yeah. I remember the Voracek one.
Brian Little's crazy.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this.
Well, and I agree with you. The issue there isn't teams using those salaries, because like again, they have to be on the books somewhere, so someone might as well
They don't have to count against the salary cap,
benefit from
though.
it. But that to me, I don't have an issue with any teams using those contracts. To my point, the league needs to do something about the way that those contracts are handled. Let those guys finish getting paid out. But
I mean, those contracts are insured.
Right,
like
right.
it's not the teams paying these guys every year.
and put in some type of review process like you do for the LTIR. If a guy's saying he's retired, make sure he's actually having to retire. He can't play anymore, and not just saying I'm done playing and the team wants out of this contract.
Also, do you remember last year the Oilers lose and 4 days later Mike Smith no longer can play hockey
Yeah, oh my
because the
gosh, yeah.
contract was inconvenient to the Oilers, and it was like, what's his injury?
Yep.
Right.
What's wrong with him? He just played
Yeah.
every game of the postseason for you.
Yeah.
And the season ended, and now you're telling me he'll never play again? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
At least you could see it with Shea Weber at the end of that Stanley Cup run. You knew his body was breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
You could see that he was in agony. And you're like, okay, this tracks.
Yeah.
But with Mike Smith, it's just like there was never a word about it. They lose. That contract is an inconvenient problem for them. And Ken Holland comes out and he's like, Mike Smith can't play anymore. And everybody's moved on.
Right.
What the fuck happened?
Well, dude, that was why you and I were talking, because again, going back to Vegas, I tweeted out that thing that I said this might be a franchise that is just in for one of those 25 plus year runs where they're in the upper half. I'm not saying they're going to win but they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be making runs to the Western Conference Final. They might get another cup or two. I had a couple of people being like, well, the NHL, you can't get around aging curves and bad salaries. I was like, have you not been watching this league for the last 5 years?
Where teams get out of contracts for free all the time.
Constantly. That's all that's happening now. And you used the word strategy earlier when you're talking about the cap circumvention. It's not unlike what we all upsettingly talk about with 3-on-3 overtime. When you're at this level, it only stays interesting and people don't know what they're doing for so long before people figure out how to coach to it, play to it, manage to it, whatever. And these are all despite what a lot of fans think about front offices, these are a lot of smart people who have a lot of smart people around them that are constantly looking for competitive edge. They're also all highly competitive people that will do anything to win.
Yeah, that's where they get dumb.
Right. And that is where they get dumb. They do dumb
when they
things.
convince themselves that this will make them win.
Right.
That's the
But
problem,
the point is that like they're very good at finding the slightest competitive advantage. And now teams are starting to weaponize this shit, and they're getting good at getting out of bad contracts.
To your exact point, a handful of years ago, the Toronto Maple Leafs literally hired the guy that wrote the collective bargaining agreement. So the guy, like, if anyone would know the loopholes, it would be that guy.
That's
Who
hilarious.
was one of the teams that started loading up on LTIR deals when they didn't have any cap space. There's no wiggle room. They're going to have to move a good player. No, we're going to trade for a bunch of guys who are hurt, who are not going to play, and it's going to give us $11 million to spend in the summer. The way the LTIR is calculated over the summer and in the season is different now.
Yep.
And I think it's different because they have tried to curb some of this, but teams are working around it on a regular basis.
Are you guys in the party that is, hey, if the loophole's there to exploit, good for you?
Yes.
Or okay, yeah, all right.
You're not cheating. You're within the rules of the league. The league, I think, needs to be more aggressive about closing those loopholes.
I agree.
But
The league needs to take it seriously. They look at it and they go, "We don't have a problem with this," and you're like, "God, will you just pay attention?"
Right. Well, and then this is the part that's always hard, and people don't like it, and it's whatever. I don't think it's the NBA where they've got refs like rigging individual games, but like.
We see you, Scott Foster.
I have a feeling that Gary Bettman is probably feeling pretty good right now.
Yep.
After the last week of events.
I want to get into that before we do. We are brought to you by Kind Love. New sponsor. They give you the good stuff over there. If you need to cool off because this conversation's got you heated, Kind Love can definitely get you in the right headspace.
Those gummies fucked me up.
You can go to Kind Love and use the code DNVR to get 25% off all in-store purchases. So make sure you're getting that deal with Kind Love. They've been one of the first dispensaries in Colorado. They've been around since 2010, so they know what they're doing. They've got authentic genetics, patient grow techniques, one of the highest quality brands in all of Colorado. They're fully integrated from seed to sale. They grow their own stuff. Good. It's just good weed. I don't know how else to put this to you.
It's just good weed. It's
yeah,
well said.
like it's just that simple. Go get your good weed from Kind Love today. They have all sorts of patented processes to make sure you got the good stuff. They have their Turbo Core, which everyone loves. It's just a little 100 milligram stick. It's like a toothpick that you can stick into any like blunt or a cigarette even, and you got your weed. So
It's a little confusing, but it's very effective.
it gets the job done, that's for sure. Or you can go get blasted on their gummies like AJ. Check them out today. Again, go into a Kind Love store, or you can order online as well if that's your thing. Kindlove.com for their full extensive menu. Check them out. Use the DNVR code to get 25% off. Also brought to you by Volo Sports, the biggest social sports company in the country. They're all over Colorado here. They cover pretty much the entire Denver metro area and then some. So no matter where you are, they've got leagues for you, whether it be bowling, kickball, flag football, basketball, volleyball, pickleball. How many other balls can I get in here? No, this isn't a Manscaped read.
You said volleyball?
I did say volleyball.
Say kickball?
I did say kickball.
So I was just reading how much money Messi got. I didn't realize it was that much money. So I was missing. I was missing a lot of money. Let me double check
Actually,
this because the number's big enough that I was like,
did he really?
what?
But he probably did because that's the way that America does it.
Seriously.
Anyway, go check out Volo. You can go to Volo Sports today, and you can get your beta pass. It's just $10 a month for the first 3 months for unlimited drop-ins. You can play in whatever sports you want. I know a bunch of the DNVR folks play in a kickball league now for the summer, so you can go check that out. You can also get the first month free with code DNVR. Be sure to check it out. After that, it's just $20 a month or $200 a year to do whatever you want. Also, a bunch of great people who, after they play their sports, they regularly come down to the DNVR bar for a drink. So you can play sports, hang out, get a drink, have a great time.
My
Volo
roommate
Sports.
has played a couple of their sports, and he's a big fan.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's having
Nice.
a great time.
Yeah, I guess Enrique is in good shape. I always forget that he's like...
But he goes to the gym 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An
The
animal.
man's a machine.
Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. So I did kind of want to get into this. I don't know. Should we start with the OEL thing first?
No.
No?
They gave him equity in the team.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
That's insane. Says 2 years, about $150 million is what they have it
I
all.
thought it was 200, but yeah.
Oh, that's lower than what I expected.
That's for 2 years, that's insane.
Yep.
It's soccer.
That's insane. Do you guys think that? I think I already asked you. Do you think that moves the needle at all for U.S. soccer, like for the MLS?
No.
Okay, see, that was what I thought too. Because I've seen a bunch of people like, this changes everything. I was like, I don't think it changes a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, we did this once with David Beckham.
Yep. So shout out
the Swedish guy that's with the big personality. Thank you, Zlatan. Yeah, he came over here and played for LA too.
I just don't.
Way to go, intern.
I think the one guy who really had the chance to move the needle was Freddie Adu, and then he sucked. So sorry.
Yeah, maybe an American star starring in America would really
and
help.
he's getting money from the Apple TV deal in it.
I mean, there's a reason he did it.
Yeah.
He won the World Cup. He's like, I don't need to continue.
He's on
to
the
play
back nine of his
the
career for
highest
sure.
level of competitive soccer. Like,
Yeah.
He's
Like I
earned
said-
over $1 billion in salary in his career.
Yeah. He's
like
good.
I said, that 150 million is not that much for soccer.
Yeah, just dropping a bucket for him. You won't even notice that it's there.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine making $75 million and being like, it's all good?
He's got a.
Did I ever get that deposit? Did that ever show up? No, just let me know.
He needs to crank it up a little bit so he can buy an NFL team. All right. He's going to need more.
By the Sens. Everybody else is trying.
No kidding.
Real quick, I put a poll in the chat. If you haven't filled out the poll yet, go fill
What's
it
our
out. There's only
poll?
about that. If it's exploitive, yes or no.
Is Vegas cheating? That's what the poll is.
Yeah. Only about
Yes
half
and no.
half of you guys have filled it out so far, so the other half go fill it out because it's about 50-50 right now.
Ooh, pretty
Yeah.
even.
Pretty even. So
Pretty
I thought that was
even
interesting.
Split.
It's not against the rules, so no, but it's against the competitive spirit of the sport, so yes.
Yeah. Are you cheating and like you should be punished? No.
It's
Is it
like
slimy?
the Matt Duchene offsides. By the written letter of the rule, that was technically onside, but by the spirit of the offside rule,
Give me a break.
right?
What the hell?
Right. Oh gosh, I guess that Nashville player knocking it down did count as control and passing it back into your own
Well,
zone.
and like the Makar tag up against Edmonton.
Hey, I actually will argue with on that one
Like, give me a
because that
break,
I mean
man.
he didn't touch it.
Like by the technical rule.
Right, right. By the written letter, that was the correct
The
call.
same as
right.
I couldn't believe it when I was watching it in
But at
arena.
the same
But
time, that violates all spirits. Of
The
what
same
that
as
rule is.
I like that one better than the Duchesne
that
one.
LA goal in round one against Edmonton this year.
Same thing, right?
I guess it did technically hit Ekholm's elbow.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Anyway, look, the NHL is in a weird spot with this particularly because of the flat cap that they've been dealing with for the last 4 years now.
I'd have a lot more sympathy for teams in year one when they weren't expecting it. And
Sure.
it all just kind of dropped on them, and it was, oh my God, what happened? We're 3 years into this, and teams like Vancouver just keep being
Keep doing this. Yeah.
so unbelievably self-destructive
yeah.
and stupid.
I don't disagree. I also, I mean, I think the flat cap causes a lot of other issues because the players want to get paid. The players are now doing things. We're seeing some of these weird 2-year deals already happening this offseason where players are trying to get to the salary cap jump.
It's just Gavrikov at the moment, right?
For now, I'm expecting at least 1 or 2 more to happen in free agency.
We'll see.
We'll see,
I'm
he
not
says.
sold.
I know.
I'm not sold that
I know.
somebody is
I
gonna
know the
turn
thing
down $30
swirling
million
around
or
Gavrikov
whatever.
is everyone around him told him not to do that.
Yeah.
But
It is just interesting though because it at least opens the door to: are you going to have players making salary cap conscious decisions? I know I can get paid again.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly, I actually think, is the perfect candidate for this, for reasons that Gavrikov shouldn't have done it. Like Ryan O'Reilly is still going to be in demand in a year or 2 years. Like people are going to still want those services. Captain, want a Stanley Cup, et cetera, et
Him
cetera, et
taking a
cetera.
1-year, $7 million deal makes way more sense than your average bear.
Yep.
Because he could go into another bad center market next year. And if he has a good year, say in Colorado on a 1-year deal, he can go into free agency and get a 4-year deal. At age 32, he can get a 4 or 5-year deal when the cap could take a $6 million jump or
Right.
some shit.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So that to me,
That's the kind of shark move that I would expect out of a guy like him.
Seriously. For the person that was in the chat last week, like, it's already a done deal. St. Louis on a discount. It's like, I don't
think
know.
so, bud.
I'm not rolling out going back to St. Louis, but on a discount? Not Ryan O'Reilly.
How familiar are you?
Yeah. But no, seriously, I mean, it's part of the reason why I do think that there is a potential door open there for a Ryan O'Reilly Avs reunion. Hey, we're going to go for it again this year. You can get paid again next year, and maybe you'll have another cup to your resume that you can sell yourself on and maybe even make more than you would have gotten.
He could do a 2-year deal and have the same thing, because then he would get that second year jump as well, where teams aren't going to spend all that money in year one. And by that second year, everybody is going to have money to spend, because it's not just going to be a 1 year, we got $4 million. It's going to be over the course of 2 years. The league handed them $10 million.
Yep.
So I think a 2-year deal for a guy like Rohr would make perfect sense too.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting how exactly this plays out, because especially before this flat cap, you saw tons of teams making deals with the expectation that the cap was just going to go up in the future. You still see those deals getting made now.
Yeah, I mean, you see a contract for a guy like Nick Suzuki.
Yep.
Getting just under $8 million. Is coming off like a 65-point season or something.
Yep.
I think it's a good player. He's getting paid what at the moment would be high-end money.
But in 6 years,
And
it's gonna
6
be,
years from now, that's gonna be a dime of a contract.
Yep.
They're gonna be loving that. And Nick Suzuki's gonna be their captain and their best player and blah 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 blah. It's gonna be totally worth it. But right now, you're like, ooh, it's a little on the pricey side for who he is.
Not that unlike the Jack Hughes deal when he first signed it, where everyone was like, whoa, he's had the injury problems, the scoring hasn't taken off. But that's not what we're paying for. We're paying for 3 years from now.
Yeah, well, and this has become, this
Pretty
is
normal,
the same thing.
yeah.
Same thing that happened with McKinnon
Nate,
and Scheifele and Gaudreau and all those guys who had $6 million back when
Now
$6
that
million
number's
was
just
a really
8,
expensive
yeah.
contract. And by the end of those deals, you were looking at him going, wow, Mark Scheifele's making $6 million. He scored 40 goals last year.
The ultimate one is Sidney Crosby on his.
Well,
8.7.
he's got his own weird tick with 8.7. But
But I mean, just the point is, like, when did he sign that? 'Cause it's like a 13-year deal.
Yeah,
Right? That was before
it was he and Ovechkin are they're going to finish those
the
contracts.
last of the two with those now illegal contracts. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's the funniest one, because again, when you think back to when he signed that, it's like, holy shit, 8.7.
Yeah.
Who was handing that out? And now that's like lower
Pennies
half
on the dollar for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. Cale Makar's making more than Sidney Crosby. So
Which you can justify. There are some of those
totally.
other defensemen that got contracts right after him that you cannot.
can't fix stupid. all right?
Regardless of how long ago that Crosby contract was signed, Seth Jones should not be making more money than him.
Yeah.
No argument on that front for sure. It is interesting though, because I think you should expect the cap to go up no matter what. Mostly because once the debt is paid off, the players will go back to their 5% escalator that they get with the salary cap if they want to enact it every offseason. And
I don't think they're going to be using that the next couple of off seasons. I think they're going to be like, we'll just take the revenue.
well, they won't need to use it the next couple of off seasons.
Well, that
sure,
5% is going to be a lower number.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But there should, barring another globe-changing event,
Yeah,
there should be
another pandemic.
a consistent increase in the
If you're a
NHL
millennial, you're
situation.
fully prepared for it.
Well, hey, look, when you've lived through 5 once-in-a-generation events in your generation, all right?
I'm saying.
And we're only in our 30s.
Brutal, dude. Brutal.
It's crazy out here. It gets rough. The hockey, though, so let me ask it to you this way: who's set up this offseason to take advantage of these loopholes, to abuse where the salary cap is at? Is it just Vegas running it back? Is it someone like Colorado with Landeskog's LTIR money?
Dude, Here's where you worry about it really becoming an issue. Now that a team is, well, I mean, Tampa did it a couple years ago.
Actively, repeatedly done this.
Right.
Yeah.
Now there are going to be a bunch of teams looking at it saying, okay, well, it worked.
Yeah.
It's now worked 2 out of the last 3 years.
So what you're saying is the Avs should trade for the Voracek contract from Arizona.
I mean, I just
Double that cap space and be like, all right, now we're in the money, baby.
I wouldn't be surprised if you started seeing some teams do that until that loophole is closed. Because seriously, two of your last 3 Cup champs were not regular season cap compliant, and have we're open about it. Yep, he's hurt, can't play. I wouldn't be surprised to see like Boston trade for one of those contracts to try to just double down on it.
Boy, I don't know if Boston can.
In order to bring
together,
back Tyler
honest,
Perduzzi or something like that.
Dmitry Orlov.
Either one.
It feels silly to go about this way.
I'm honestly getting to the point where it feels silly not to. That's clearly what it's going to take now to get a competitive edge.
I mean, if you have 17 teams doing this.
From a team standpoint, I get it. Now it feels like you have to do it.
Right.
But from a league standpoint.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's tough. And initially my brain is like, well, instead of this, just give every team more salary cap if they're willing to do it. But I know that they'll go and spend that on healthy players right away.
Then they'll LTIR and then have even more money. Yeah.
So it's just hard to fix in season. I think you guys summed it up for the playoffs very well, where you just have a salary cap still and it's fine. But in season, I don't know how you fix it. So
I don't think you can. I think this system is the only one that works in the regular season. The issues start when you get to the playoffs and all that stuff disappears.
I also don't really have an issue with it in the regular season.
I don't either.
It's punitive in the way that it's supposed to be.
Well, and you don't get the benefit of the player.
Exactly.
In the regular season, you can't have the player.
Out Mark Stone. All right. Well, you don't have Mark Stone for the next 3 months.
Right.
They just happen to be in a division and in a conference that wasn't very good this year.
Didn't need it. Yeah.
Exactly. You look at last year when they tried it. It didn't go as well because it was a more competitive environment. Things didn't go their way.
What do they do in net, huh?
We talk about it. I mean,
it'll be
a little over talking about LTIR. I think we're good. So
yeah, I mean, it's that or OEL, or if the chat wants to talk about Damon Severson's contract.
What segment are we in here?
Second.
Okay, I was going to say, because I do want to get into OEL at some point, but just the Vegas goaltending thing is going to be interesting because Aiden Hill is going to be overpaid by someone. I just don't know who it is yet.
This generation's Antiniemi is the most predictable outcome imaginable.
It might even be closer to, I mean, I guess Niemi won the cup, but if that guy's career goes like Andrew Hammond's from here, I would not be super surprised.
Well, I mean, Jordan Bennington's the easiest one, or even Matt Murray. Like, this is why I think he's going to...
Murray's a little bit different,
Murray had a lot of other circumstances that helped. I mean, I guess the end result is the same. It's just how Jordan Bennington just sucks.
Well, right, that's my thing. Yeah.
Like, he just sucks, and if Aiden Hill goes out and he gets a free agent deal somewhere, is it going to be a surprise to anybody if he just sucks?
Do you know what I'd give if St. Louis gave it to him? Like, we're trading Bennington.
That'd be so funny.
Signing Aiden Hill 6x6.
It's funny you mentioned this because I stayed up all night writing a 6 trades I'd like to see the Avalanche make this summer, which will come out later today. And I tried really hard to give a goalie to the Blues because I was like, okay, I'm going to give them, if I gave them Josh Manson and I gave them Pavel Francouz, could I get anything out of them that I actually wanted? And the answer was no, like hard no. And a big reason is because that Bennington deal is just such an albatross.
Dude, it's atrocious. And Aiden Hill, like, I think he could have a career like Bennington where it's like, yeah, he'll get some good starts out of him.
Yeah.
He'll have a game here or there where he's really on, but he's just going to get shelled on most nights because Jordan Bennington is a career AHL guy.
I mean, Bennington's a fine bottom tier starter in the NHL, I think.
It's a hell of a sentence.
It's the $6 million that
he's way overpaid for sure.
That's the thing with Bennington. And what killed you is when they did it, they didn't need to. It was a year before his free agency.
Yeah.
They could have just let him continue to do his thing and see what they had. made that big ass commitment to him, and you're just like, okay.
If someone goes out and gives Aiden Hill $6 million this offseason,
It's on them.
yeah, they're going to look like idiots.
I mean, if somebody goes out and gives him $4 million,
That feels like too much.
Well, and
for
that's
sure.
my thing where it's like I just don't know how Vegas brings that dude back.
Because someone will do something irresponsible
Well,
for him,
someone
for
will
sure.
do something
Not just that,
irresponsible,
but
and
they've got Leonard signed. They've
Yeah.
got, I think,
LT.
Brossois
Brossois
signed.
signed
Still there.
and Thompson signed.
And Thompson is signed. I mean, you're sitting there like,
What are we doing? And not to mention, he wouldn't even have been playing if not for injuries to those other guys in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yep. LT was their starter in the playoff. Was supposed to be.
Well, I'll say, and then it was Brossois, and then it was Hill. And so it's just
And he
like,
went on a 1 month heater. He played the best hockey of his life for
and he
1
was
month.
good in the finals. Like, he was good. He was solid.
I mean, I think Florida kind of sucked. But,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
he,
for sure.
he did what he had to do. He made all the saves he needed
how
to
much
make.
do you think it helped Vegas to not sweep Dallas and end up in that 6-game series versus Florida, who ended up just
Sitting around.
Florida kind of had the 2007 Rockies thing.
I made that comparison too.
They
yeah.
lost the mojo, man.
Yeah.
They lost all that momentum. They lost all the good vibes. We're showing up to work every day and it's fun and we're gonna kick the shit out of these guys and we're unstoppable. They spent a week sitting around with their thumb up their ass, not doing anything.
Well, then you could tell they didn't know how to be engaged in that final, those first couple games, because all they were doing is running around taking dumb penalties.
Fun fact: did you know? I stumbled on this last night and made me laugh so hard. Sam Bennett had more penalty minutes in the postseason than he did the regular
That's
season.
fun.
That is funny.
60-54.
Wow. Well, I mean, dude, Matthew Tkachuk got misconducts in the first 4 games of the final.
It's 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't look at what his numbers were. I assumed he had lots of PIMs in both.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I also P.S. I traded for Sam Bennett. And
Not Reinhardt.
I-
Tragic.
Yeah, no, I did not trade for Reinhardt. Sorry.
He's the better Sam on that team.
If you want to go ahead and write the piece next time, you can.
no, I'll make a video. It'll be fun.
Great. You can make a video responding to my
he's the
written
better
piece.
Reinhardt.
Here is why AJ's trades are stupid.
Exactly. Well, I have all the trades are broken down into why this makes sense, why this makes no sense. So I already got you on the rebuttal why it's stupid. You bitch.
123 regular season for Tkachuk this year.
Decent number in
Yeah,
this era.
that's pretty high.
74 in the playoffs.
And like 60 of them are the finals.
And what,
Yeah.
like, what was it, like
So,
22 games?
In his last 4 games, 14, 22,
That's already
0,
36.
14.
So that's 50. 50 of them in the
Fall
last
asleep
4
or get
games.
hurt or what happened?
It was game 3, so it was a game where he got hurt and then came back and scored the game-tying goal. That was the only game where he didn't have any penalty minutes.
Can we have this quick conversation? Because I feel like every year it gets talked about on Twitter and nowhere else. But the playing through injuries, at what point does it stop being heroic
There was
and start
clearly
being
he was
dangerous?
clearly hurting his team in Game 5.
Not just hurting
let
his
alone his
team,
own health
But
concerns.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Where's the adult in the room that's like, you have a broken sternum? Fucking stop.
For me, I still, and this is probably my the one of the few old school hockey guy things I have. I love it. I'm with you. No one should ever be putting themselves in like long term harm's way. I do love the principle of like willing to do anything, willing to sacrifice anything to win. And in a lot of instances, you hear the guys, say stuff like, I couldn't let the other guys in the room down. I didn't want to let the other people down. I do think there's something admirable to it. If it's a situation where it's like,
I agree with this.
Can't get any worse. You're not going to it's going to hurt like hell, but you're not going to make it worse. You're not going to damage yourself. I'm all for it.
This is the miracle. Oh, it's a bad
Yes,
bruise.
yes.
It's a bad bruise. This is one where I'm like, if it's simply a pain threshold,
Yeah.
I'm with you.
If you're
Yeah.
at like risk of dying.
But like when you're talking about like punctured lungs,
Yeah.
you're talking about broken sternum, like that's your rib cage, dude. Like protecting all of
Your
your vital
important
organs.
parts. Yep.
Like, and you're gonna go out there, and if you think that the guy's not, if you think Ivan Barbashev's not gonna try and break it again,
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Wow. Ivan Barbashev, 2 playoffs in a row.
This just got to you, huh?
He's the sternum smasher for
Well,
sure.
it was when you said Ivan Barbashev's going to break it again. I was going to be like, yeah, 2 years in a... Oh, my God.
He did it.
Wow. That's got to be a first,
He's
right?
got a calling card.
That's
If
got to
he
be an
breaks
NHL
someone's
first.
sternum in this coming year's playoffs, that is-
Seriously. One on the wall, one open ice. Good
Yep.
for Ivan Barbashev. Wow.
Weird thing to celebrate.
I mean,
So-
it's just that it's... How often can you say, yeah, in less than 365 days, I've broken 2 people's chest plate? Not a lot of people can say that.
What a man, I guess.
Honestly.
No, but this is where I think this is an interesting conversation of like, is this too far? Because the broken sternum, my answer is yes.
It was
You're having other people dress you.
right. If you can't tie your own skates, you can't play hockey.
Like, there's got to be like, how is it that a team doctor is going? I'm good with this. I've given him the risks. It's up to him. It's his choice.
I'd be willing to bet that at a certain point, some of the doctors are saying, I wouldn't recommend you go back out there. But I'm also sure that there is for like the medical staff, there's only so much they can do. Like, I think it has to be a certain severity, a certain injury to be like, you are not allowed to go back in. Like, I'd be willing to bet Matthew Tkachuk was probably told, I wouldn't play if I were you. You're not going to be able to get dressed. And I think he had no penalty minutes. Or no, that was the game where he came back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like you look at game 5 even, and it's like, not only is it for his own health concerns, why would the team want him back? That dude sat on the bench for 3 periods and played like 4 minutes.
And see that and again, this is one of the few old school. I feel for him in that situation because he's a competitor
It sucks
and he
for him.
wants to be
you
there.
appreciate that he's dying for
Yeah.
it.
Right, exactly.
But
You
he's not your
appreciate
best option.
You appreciate how important it is to him. You appreciate how important it is to the team. Fucking get in a suit and stand behind the bench like
Yep.
an
Well,
assistant coach.
Yep.
So here's the
Yep.
one
Put a
argument.
teammate in a uniform that can help you.
Yep.
Here's the one argument
You're
I would
not
make
doing
against that. The conversations that we were having in Tampa Bay at morning skate the day of Game 4 last year, watching Nazem Kadri. There was a bunch of us going, "Are they fucking serious with this? He can't shoot the puck. He can't shoot." We were all saying like jokingly, like if Nazem Kadri gets the puck, if I'm the Lightning, I'm not going anywhere near him because the dude's not going to shoot. And I looked at Peter Baugh and I said, I don't know if he can get like in the blue paint and chip one maybe. And that was exactly what happened that night in overtime. But so I don't know. Maybe that's what you're going for with Matthew Tkachuk in that game where it's like, we know you're not going to be able to go, but if you can get one shift where we get you the puck on your stick and you give us 30 seconds, I don't know. And again, it's hard for me to say. I'm not in that situation.
I think there's
I
a
agree
pretty
with you.
clear
This is
difference
where you're
in those,
drawing that
but-
line, though, a broken sternum is significantly more dangerous.
Yeah, I was just
to
talking in terms of
overall health
effectiveness.
versus a broken thumb, where you're like,
Absolutely,
I think
100%.
the thing is, I think even the effectiveness thing is like you're like, okay, Naz can't really handle the puck. Maybe he can't shoot that well, but he can still skate around and be a hockey player. Matt Tkachuk was floating around the ice, actively avoiding all contact. Like one of those dudes is playing hockey poorly, and one of them is not playing hockey at all.
Sounds like you were describing Leon Draisaitl a bit last year in the Western Conference
Not
Final.
wrong.
The dude had like 9
hey
points.
man, Terrell Davis couldn't even see in the Super Bowl. He was having such a bad migraine. Okay, they ran him out there to be a literal decoy.
And to this point, everything you're saying, Rudo, is why I don't think you saw him in Game 5 was because they were like, we tried it. We tried for the emotional boost. We thought maybe the adrenaline would get you.
And it's not.
yeah, it's
You
not
just
there.
can't be there. Because we really did. I thought the Avs had better options in the lineup than Nazem Kadri in that game last year. Just watch him. Because I was like, he's flying, he's cutting, someone passes him a puck, and it's like, ding. Oh, fuck.
Well,
It's the
What a
way it
memory.
goes. And
Seriously.
like obviously we haven't gotten into the conversation, but you guys brought it up, Terrell Davis and otherwise. Even if these players in the moment want this, they have the rest of their lives to think about also.
Head injury stuff, I think, is totally different. I think
It
you get
is.
to
No
the
doubt.
neck and above, and you're in a completely different category. And I'm
One.
with you guys 100%.
you're talking about when you talk about brain injuries, man. Like you're just They're way more unpredictable. We know way less about them. They're way less treatable.
Yeah.
Like, and the way that they affect your day-to-day life is significantly more than like, hey, like Patrick Kane just had like half of his hip shaved off or whatever.
Right.
Trying to alleviate some of that pain, you know, whatever. A little bit different with the brain stuff. That's a total literal no-fly zone.
Separate bucket completely.
Totally agree.
A place you probably do want to fly over to, though, is Illegal Pete's. Go get their delicious burritos. You can head over for happy hour. They have one of the longest ones in Denver from 3 to 8 p.m. Delicious margaritas.
Margs are legit.
The weather is finally turning for the nicer, so you can sit on the patio.
Yeah, patio marg at Illegal Pete's.
It's perfect combo.
We needed
right
a
there.
4 p.m. show, not a 1 p.m.
No
show.
kidding. Just skate down to Pete's afterward if we were a little bit later. But you can go over there. Delicious burritos, too. Fresh ingredients. Their queso is to die for. You can check out one of their 11 locations here in Colorado, including one just a couple blocks down from the DNVR bar. Get your Illegal Pete's burritos today. And if you are sitting outside, make sure you get your Shady Rays on to block some of those sun rays so you can see what's happening. You don't want to get a migraine from the sun, which is a thing that happens, believe me.
Also, it's really good. I had my eyes checked last week, which was a horrible experience, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
I
the
don't mind
the
it.
whole
the eye dilation really screwed me up, and then I got stuck in traffic, and it
See,
was
my eye doctor stopped the dilation in COVID. They were like, "Oh, for COVID, we're not doing the dilation. It's just the machine." And now they've like full stopped.
I'm
it.
surprised they let you drive afterward.
I had sunglasses, otherwise it would have been a complete no-go.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him about how healthy sunglasses actually are.
Yeah.
Like, how good are these for long-term health of your eyes? And they're like, oh, they're fantastic. Like, wear them.
So there you go. Shady Rays.
Very, very important to have.
Medically approved, confirmed. No, I don't know if I can legally say that, but
You can get your eyes sunburned if you don't have
that's,
proper
like,
UV protection
really bad,
on your
too.
sunglasses. Yeah, you can. Sunglasses are integral.
So go get yours at shadyrays.com. Use code DNVR when you buy 2 pairs or more. You get 50% off your
I wore
entire
my Shady Rays
purchase.
on the drive home.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
We're going to wear them for the draft, too. It's going to be fun.
Those are I haven't gotten those in yet.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're going to be here in the next 2 weeks.
I'm hoping, but it's been 2 weeks, so
we'll see. Either way, shadyrays.com, or if you're local, they have a brick and mortar in the Park Meadows Mall. Go check them out. Get yourself some fancy sunglasses. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. AJ and I talked about this very briefly on Friday, but Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Yep.
I mean, let's start with this from Vancouver's side.
what are you doing?
What?
Yeah, this feels a lot like the Zach Parise, Ryan Suter thing, where I'm really struggling to make sense. I get the obvious flaws with the player. You're still under contract for multiple years, but
Yeah.
I struggle to connect the dot to buyout.
How is this going to
biggest-
make you better in the long run? Yeah.
My biggest problem with it is that when the buyout is at its most punitive, is the years that they're going to need to pay for new
the
contracts
rest of their team, yeah.
for guys like Pettersson, Hughes, Kuzmenko, et cetera, et cetera. Those are that's a really big consideration. Now, I think the money maxes out at it's like $4 million.
Not
or
a
something.
crazy number,
And
yeah.
with what we're expecting the cap to do in the next few years, I think it'll be something that is salvageable. Mm-hmm. But for this to be the first thing that they do, right when the buyout window opens up,
Yeah.
I mean, is
They do this?
this a team that truly believes they're going to be competitive in the next 2 years? Because
I
if
think
not,
it
why
is.
not just eat his contract?
I think it is a team that thinks it can compete. And
Good luck.
you look at the roster and you're like, that's a good player.
They've
that's
got-
a good
they've
player,
got good-
That's a
they've
good
got
player.
good pieces.
They remind me of, say, the 2015, 16 Avalanche. They've got good players. It's a bad team.
Yeah. And that's the problem is, can they put something together? Less than a month ago, we're talking about Vancouver as a team. It's like, well, they're probably going to have to move a bunch of pieces out. They're probably not going to get better.
Well, and now they're sitting on $9 million in cap space because I guess Ethan Bear is hurt again.
I don't see the path to how they get there, but
I mean, with that kind of money, you could
obviously you can make big splashy moves.
You
but
could sign a defenseman. You could, and the problem with OEL is that he was on their second pairing and he was
Right.
awful.
He did that dude's a bottom pairing.
He
dude,
was
for real.
absolutely awful for them. It was not like, well, he was just a little bit overpaid, but he's actually, like I've been having the Eric Johnson conversation last couple of years where it's like, if he went out on the open market right now, he'd probably get $4 million from somebody. Is he overpaid at $6 million? Yes. Is it egregious? Not really.
It's pretty bad this last year, but
This last year was the only year where you were like not even close to it.
Yeah.
But with OEL, you're talking about he's making over $7 million.
and I think
He was maybe $2 million last year. You could have justified for that guy.
this free agency in the piece, you can go read about it more, but none of us wanted to, like, I was the highest and I was like, I guess I'd give him 2.5 for a year, but really I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, and I wanted to see what he actually looked like on film, because we had talked about it last week where we were both like, short term, low money, sure, I'll kick the tires. And then I went back and watched him, and I'm worried that physically it's not there anymore. That he doesn't have the skating ability that he needs. In theory, it would have been really intriguing for the Avs, right? And I guess it still could be.
I think it is.
He broke his foot in World Championships 2 years ago. It had a major effect on him this past season.
So, I mean, I think if you're going out and getting an OEL, if you're the Avs, you're playing him on your bottom pair as like a specialist where you give him a ton of ozone starts.
Yeah, I mean, you put him next to Josh Manson as a third pairing.
Right. And you don't ask him to play a ton of defense. You hope you get like 25 to 30 points out of him as a depth scoring
If you got
defenseman.
25 points out of a third pairing defenseman, you're feeling good.
I think you could do that with OEL if he's playing well. If he shows up and he just can't go, then it's not going to work.
He just can't be a one-way player, because if he's going to be a one-way player, just go sign John Klingberg.
And I think that is a much better idea, generally speaking.
Go sign Kevin Shattenkirk. Like, there are guys out there who already do that
better.
You don't really have any major question marks about them.
I'm
comfortable with those.
Yeah. I get him for less money.
I 100% agree. I don't think OEL should even be the Avs' like fourth option.
Is OEL going to get like a Suter-like deal, though? Because after Suter got bought out, we had the same conversation. We were like, hey, for 2 years. Now, age was a way bigger role in the Suter thing because he was still effective.
Yeah.
And so we were a lot more concerned about his age, which is proving prescient given
how the fall off
how things have gone in Dallas over the last 2 months.
Yeah.
But with Suter, it was like, there's no way, right? And then Dallas gives him a 4-year deal. Somebody's going to do that, right? Somebody's going to do something kind of irresponsible here for OEL.
I would have to think that there is a little bit of this where it's like, Suter's game was much easier to talk yourself into it bouncing back than what a guy like OEL does or did at a high level at one point, where I just even when they gave Suter 4 years, like you said, we were all like, know how this is going to end. But you can at least be like, well,
and that's how it's ending.
If he right.
I just don't.
If he could give you some shutdown minutes, if he could kill some penalties,
that's
fine.
I think there are some.
You're not getting that with
There are some teams that could talk themselves into Suter being a top 4 guy, probably a second pair guy for them. Yeah. I don't know if there's many teams that can talk themselves into OEL being
and that's what I'm saying. I feel like Suter at the time of the buyout was easier to dream on.
I mean, if you're Edmonton
needs real defensemen if they're going to go that
Edmonton is the exact type of team that would give Oliver Ekman-Larsson 4 years. You are 100% correct, AJ. So 4x4, that's the exact team that would do it.
If you're Edmonton, and you're desperate to try and find value somewhere on a contract, if you're OEL and you're going into this, are you taking, say, a 3-year deal from Buffalo, or would you rather take a 1-year deal for low AAV from Tampa Bay, Colorado,
to have that pop off year,
like a good team with a good infrastructure where you don't have to be the guy, but you can go and have a solid season that sets you up for a payday again in a market where there will be more money next year, including from the team that you sign with. If things go really well, would that be more intriguing to you, or would you rather just take the guarantee?
See, I'm going to be a little bitch here and nitpick your example, because I would actually take Buffalo in that situation, because I think that's a team on the come up, and you could be
kind of both.
Yeah,
well, that's why I picked them, is because I think that'll be a team that could be aggressive with their money and their offer and offer upside, and not it be like Klingberg and Anaheim last year.
Get one shot. Yeah. So if it was Buffalo in particular, if I'm OEL, I would probably
Buffalo,
do that.
Ottawa, pick
any
up
of those
Detroit,
teams in that
any of
range.
these teams that are trying to take that next step and are willing to give him a little bit of financial security over the next few years.
I mean,
So
not like he needs it. He's got 8 years of financial security now.
This is another aspect of it, and the thing that we talked about
he's
with
got
Suter.
that money rolling in.
That money
yeah.
is coming in.
Yeah.
Now he's going to lose, a third of that cash he loses from the Vancouver deal. So it's not like he's just still rolling in
But
it.
he's doing fine.
He's making 2/3 of that money. He's fine.
The thing that I would like, if I was OEL, I think I'd be more interested in one of those 3-year deals with those teams. But and maybe he wants stability and security and wants an NMC. But if it were me, I would say, okay,
Who's going to give that dude a no move?
that's what I'm saying. But if I was OEL, I would want that possibility. I would want it to be open where if I go to Buffalo, oh shit, Buffalo isn't actually that good. Get me out of here.
I mean, you'd have to have like a modified 10-team like veto list.
Yeah,
at most.
You'd have to have some limitations there.
I think, and again, to AJ, your point, I don't know. Maybe we are once again proven by the market that we know nothing, like we were with the Ryan Suter deal. This just really feels like I don't think OEL has any leverage going into.
I agree.
Free
With you.
agency.
He's going to take whatever deal comes his way.
His stock has
Yeah.
been down. He was moved off of a bottom feeding team and now was bought out by the team that he was moved to. I don't know.
It's also, I remind everybody, it's bad free agent class.
Yeah. Yeah. Not wrong.
Could you see? I mean, if I'm OEL, I think I'm drawing up a list of who are the teams that can really help me revive my career
Yeah.
versus what can I still get?
How much money can I make?
I would have my agent and I would have him say, I'm calling Colorado, I'm calling Carolina, I'm calling Tampa Bay, and I'm calling Boston.
I guess it just
Especially because Boston tried to trade for that dude so many times
it
already.
circles back though, right? Like it's a weak class, and OEL isn't anyone's first option.
Right, but now he's an option. And that means
If someone will get
there
him.
are 15 teams that need defensemen. That means he's now an option.
I'm sure someone will take him. It's just I don't know that he can call up teams and be like, no, it'll be me. Take me. I think teams are going to look at Klingberg before him.
See, I disagree with that.
Yeah, I do too. I think they'll look at the Orlovs and the.
Obviously,
those,
the top end of an Orlov is not even in the
other
same
defensemen. I don't even
stratosphere.
know. Can't.
I also do
It's like
think
Orlov and Susie. Those are the only guys I can remember that are free agents this year.
I do think OEL will end up being a more desirable asset than what you think he will.
Yeah.
Definitely possible. And I will tell you, if I'm Connor McDavid and Edmonton signs that guy to a 3-year deal, I'd walk into their front office and be like, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, that is actually where I
You
thought.
should have like a tent set up outside Holland's office during the summer.
Seriously.
And be like, I overhear what you're talking about.
Just have one of the,
Knock
like-
it off.
Yeah. Have a blind that you can drop anytime he walks by. Don't say anything. Just watch him. OEL, part of the reason where I thought you were going with this in Edmonton was let that dude just feed pucks.
Become a 60-point dude.
Right. Ozone starts and just get pucks to 29 and 97.
Yeah. OEL, Darnell Nurse, and Evan Bouchard on the same defense.
Jeez, dude. And
Cup
again,
winning, baby.
that sounds exactly like something the Edmonton Oilers would.
The Edmonton Oilers get football scores every game. 10-7. Let's go.
How much longer is on McDavid's deal? 3 years?
3, I think.
Is it this
It's
plus
3 or
2?
it's 3 or
It might
4.
be 4. Yeah,
Because, I
don't
mean,
know.
you really...
10-7.
You,
Better
you,
get to join the Big Ten.
you go back to that press conference, whatever that was. I think it was the year they missed the playoffs. Last year they missed the playoffs. When he said we've got 6 years to get this figured out, or he made some very loose, very vague threat.
Where it was like, hey, I know how much time's left on my deal.
right.
Let's.
Yeah, I'm not saying you guys need to do anything, but
this
just
is your
know
window here.
I know exactly what day that expires. And
It's the only color in that weird ass monochrome house of his
Seriously.
is the countdown clock for his
do you
contract.
see, dude? Yeah. That's hilarious. bright red. I was laughing. The NHL, I think, shared a photo of him and his girlfriend, were hiking in Utah in the red rock.
Zion or whatever one it is. Yeah.
And black shorts, white tee, black shorts. And I sent it to my buddy Jonathan. I was like, could you imagine you're out for a hike in Utah and here comes monochrome Connor McDavid just like out in the middle of nature? Just like, what the fuck? No expressionless look on his face in the photo too. It's just, but where else, in all seriousness, I think you're still pretty far from the clock striking midnight on Connor McDavid walking in free agency.
Me too.
But I do think you are starting to get into the territory where it's like, we got to make the right moves.
Starting to feel it.
You're starting to feel it just a little because genuinely, Rudo, like we laugh. If they were to actually go give 3x3, 4x4, something like that to a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, like that would be a move that would have to start the dialogue of like, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing
At what
here?
point does it become GM McJesus? Like,
well, I mean, like the
GM LeBron has gone very poorly, so be careful with that shit.
I hear you.
They've made a number of mistakes I can't even count anymore in net, and now they're backstrapped into bad contracts. The Matthias Ekholm move ended up being nice, but it flamed out hard when they needed it to. Like I just the Ethan not the Ethan Bear, the Evan Bouchard. I mean, he's
really
torched.
He's really good at the thing Edmonton is already really good at.
Right, scoring on the power. They were like 14 points in the first 2 rounds, 13 on the power play, all assists. It's like sick job. And so I don't know
when that puck goes back to the point. We know who's getting it.
Right. So really, I mean, like Edmonton's a team I'm gonna be watching this summer for. It's a little tongue in cheek, but also not. You're getting close enough to the end of that deal. If they make a couple more dumb moves, he's got to be.
How long
pissed.
is that fuse?
Let me ask you. This was a move that I contemplated last night and just thought was like too like low end for the kind of article I was writing, which was like blockbusters only, baby. Josh Manson for Yamamoto and Warren Fogle.
I'd do it.
You know that. I mean, it's kind of a guy that they need. It's a contract you might be a little nervous about after kind of a bad first year of it in Colorado.
Familiarity there.
He has a no trade clause, but that's one of the franchises you would think you would say yes.
Yeah. I really like Yam too. Like I think he would be a decent Confer replacement. I understand he didn't play any defense, but the offensive side, I think he could replace a lot of Confer.
You're getting 2 middle 6 wings in Yamamoto and Fogle for a combined price of just under $6 million.
Well, and you'd be buying low on Yamamoto right now because he did not have a good year last year.
Yep.
And 3.1 in the last year of his deal. Fogle's I think at 2.75 in the last year of his deal.
Give you that two-way play. Yeah.
He's a quality third liner with great analytics who fits your style.
Not that I'm usually very big on this, but woo, Kyler Yamamoto is small.
He is very small.
He's very small, and it's kind of the issue.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not usually the first person to jump to that, but he's when you look up his metrics, he is shockingly undersized.
Yeah, he's very. That's like maybe would be a problem for Colorado because it would be hard to put him and Newhook together.
I mean, he's like barely bigger than Rocco Grimaldi.
Yeah,
like not by a
he's
lot.
like really small.
He's that caliber.
So then you have to start doing weird things where you're like putting Val on his wing or something.
Well, and that's where you hope he takes that top 6 job.
Yeah, and like if he can give you 50 points up there, you love it.
That's what you're hoping for. I mean, he has a 40-point season under his belt. You're just like, hey, put here in this infrastructure with whatever center, doesn't change the center conversation.
They still need to do that. Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, that gets you. It basically just changes the money out for you. You spend basically $1 million. You lose Manson, which you don't want to do. I'm not trying to get rid of him.
Well,
but
so
it's two forwards that could fill roles, and in the case of Yamamoto, if it goes well, you could keep him. He's young enough like that you could give him, a 2 or 3 year deal down the road. If Landeskog comes back, you keep that guy.
The reason you do this from Colorado's perspective, it doesn't have to be Yamamoto and Fogle. It's if you're not confident in the guy you're going to get out of Manson next year, I could see Colorado looking to move on from that. Now,
it's a lot.
You have to find a reason teams would want him.
Well, and then you spent $1 million and created a hole on your defense.
Yeah.
So you would then need to go fill. Then you would have no bottom pairing at that point.
Megan and I mentioned this, I think it was last week, where a lot of the players that we'll be talking about this summer, or over the next few weeks as we really ramp up to things happening.
Yeah.
A lot of the players that we're talking about from the Avs side, where we're saying it would maybe benefit them to move on from this guy. It's not because they're bad players. It's not because they don't bring anything to the roster.
Yeah.
In most cases, it's actually the opposite. This is a high-end player that they can probably get a lot for that they may not be able to afford, or there may be kind of existential reasons why they would want to move on from him. But I just want to make that distinction because we've had a lot of chatter about trading a guy like Devon Taves, talking about Josh Manson, which has been good. He's been good when he's been healthy for the Avs.
Yeah.
It's just that there's other needs, and you may run into some money issues with some of these guys.
And the $4 million for a guy in your third pairing is a tough pill to swallow.
It's a lot of money there. Yeah.
Byram's getting paid.
Yep.
Whatever he's going to end up getting paid, we still don't know. But yeah.
Very quickly, as we do have to wrap this up, and we can talk more about this on a later show when we get more into free agency. But Damon Severson's contract, do you think that matters at all to free agency, or is it a completely different bubble?
What do you mean?
Like, has Damon Severson set the market a little bit for defensemen this offseason?
Yes, because if you're Brett Pesce's got 1 year left on his deal. Brett Pesce and Devon Taves, very, very similar profile, where they ride shotgun to a top pairing defenseman.
Yep.
Devon Taves more offensively productive, so he's going to get paid more than Brett Pesce. But with Severson's deal, Brett Pesce's looking at that going, I'm not taking less than that. That is a guy who is a worse player than me.
Yeah.
Even though he's a little more, Severson has a little more offensive upside, Brett Pesce's a better player. So I do think that contract matters. I also think that whatever the Orlov deal ends up being
It's the one that really sets it. Yeah.
And could be a big, those are tent poles to really build the markets out for. What does Pesce get? What does Taves get? What can those guys reasonably ask for? Because if Orlov goes out there and gets $9 million, the Avs can't keep
Devon Taves is getting.
They can't keep him.
An eighth digit in that number.
Exactly. Yeah. He will get in the neighborhood of what Dmitry Orlov made, if not more.
Yeah.
If Orlov goes out there and takes 7.5,
you feel pretty good. Yeah.
Whoever Dmitry Orlov's agent is should be getting flowers from the Avalanche front office. So, but with that market now starting to get set a little bit with Severson, I do think it matters. Yes.
Okay, I'm good for today. Anything else?
I'm gonna ask you guys a question that Megan asked me when we were signing off last week. Puljujärvi hits free agency. Are you interested at all?
Yes.
That's what I said.
Definitely.
I said yes as adamantly.
Yep.
And I said you actually are probably even more interested because it went horribly in Carolina, so that means cheaper.
Oh, you need a third line winger for $1 million? Sick.
Yeah.
Third. Right now he's fourth.
Sure. Same.
I'm not playing him over Logan O'Connor.
I mean,
Put him on the Val road to reviving your NHL career path.
He earns whatever he earns. Sure.
Right.
Go get Jesper Fast, Jesse Puljujärvi, and Warren Fogle. And you've just created all these former Hurricanes. Let's create the Carolina-Colorado pipeline.
All right. The natural disasters got to stick together.
Exactly. They were part of the wild card chaos squad. They need to come back together.
That's hilarious.
We're going to get out of here for the day. We appreciate all of y'all hanging out in the off season with us. Plenty more content, especially over the next week. We're ramping up a bunch of draft stuff between AJ and I, so keep your eyes out for that.
Draft stuff, and I'll have a lot of written pieces this week about trade targets and 2C options and what stones they need to be turning over.
Options there. Jesse you're answering questions that you've already got, I'm pretty sure, so he has a Q&A coming to you guys soon as well. Lots of content. We appreciate all y'all, and we will see you on the next one.